Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, Out of Voice Radio. So today, I'm going to be showing you my very favourite card from the upcoming Crimson Invasion set. It's Registeel, and we've talked about Registeel before, but today I'm talking about partners for Registeel. I am looking at ways that we can take Registeel and make it even more exciting than it currently looks. Now, as a quick reminder, Registeel, the real highlight of the card, is the fact that you can do 30 damage for a single energy, a metal energy, so to speak, and then you get to attach an energy, a basic energy, from your discard to one of your bench Pokémon. But here's what's great about that. It is any basic energy, not just a basic metal energy, which means that unlike Raikou from Shining Legends and Yveltal from almost every set since X and Y, you can accelerate whatever energy you like, rather than being forced to accelerate a particular type of energy. Now that alone is pretty nice. But the real thing that makes Registeel so gosh darned good is the fact that it hits for such a relevant weakness. It hits metal weakness. 30 damage times by 2 for weakness is 60. Ralts, gone. Alolan Vulpix, gone. And even things like Rowlet, Grubbin, Beldum, which you're not hitting for weakness, we've actually got two different options to bring this up to one-hit KOing the small little evolving basics. We have got Dhelmise, which works for all metal Pokemon, and then we've got Regirock, which only works for Registeel. So my goal in this video is to give you some ideas of good partners for Registeel, as well as trying to continue to say Registeel rather than accidentally saying Regice, which is something I do all the time. The only Pokemon I get confused more often is Jirachi and Celebi. I know which one's which, but don't ask me to pronounce it correctly the first time. I will get them the wrong way round. There is also a second attack for Registeel that does 90 for free energy, healing 30 if Regice is on your bench. So what do you play it with? Well, the first most obvious argument is that you just play it with the other Regis. Now, Regice makes a lot of sense for a couple of reasons. First of all, Regice, if on your bench, means you heal 30 with Registeel's second attack. But also, it covers your fire weakness. So you've got Registeel that's weak to fire, and Regice that hits fire for weakness. And don't forget that the numbers here, as I've said before, are perfect. 70 doubled will get a one-hit KO on Baby Volcanion. Add a choice band, 100 doubled will one-hit KO Volcanion and Turtonator, although not Ho-Oh GX, because of the weakness to lightning. Now this is quite nice, and of course then you've got Regirock, which allows you to do an extra 10 damage, and of course, Regice has a really nice ability stopping it being KO'd by stage 2s, so against something like Metagross, for instance, this would give you an option. And yes, I know that Metang can KO Regice, but then Registeel can KO Metang, etc, etc. So, this makes sense. As for Regigigas itself, 180 HP is great, 160 is really nice. Discarding the stadium is nice, but then again, it's just 5 energy. Now, you've got the ability that means you've got to have the other 3 Regis on your bench to use this, but honestly, ladies and gentlemen, it's just... It's asking too much, to be perfectly honest. It's just asking way too much here. I don't think it's a particularly viable attacker. It takes way too much investment. So that's one way to go. I like this a lot, and if you're using that, do remember to use Smeargle, so you can have all metal energy on Regice and swap one for a water, and max elixir in that deck is going to be crucial. But I think there are some other good partners for Registeel, because as far as I'm concerned, Registeel will give you an hilariously bad matchup against the Alolan Vulpix and against Gardevoir, while probably giving you the first couple prizes against almost any deck. But in the mid to late game, I think the damage output might be a little bit too low. We need some partners. How about Garbodor? And I know it's 2017 and Garbodor is everywhere, and at the moment we're just chucking Garbodor into every deck. I get it. but it's that good. The last big standard tournament we had in Europe was Bremen Regionals. All 4 of the top 4 decks had Garbodor in. You've got the one from Guardians Rising, 20 damage for each item card in your opponent's discard pile for a single psychic energy, and then you've got the Garbotoxin one, which just shuts off abilities. Now, of course, Garbotoxin, you've got to be careful, because on the one hand, it shuts off abilities from stuff like Metagross, Volcanion, Gardevoir, Greninja Break, etc., and really helps you, but on the other hand, it shuts off the abilities of Registeel and Regirock. And that's a little bit annoying. Having said that, Garbodor will also turn off the ability of Regigigas, meaning you can just use Regigigas without having all the other Regis on the bench. So in that respect, Garbodor is actually really useful. Now, if you're not playing Ability Lock, you're just playing the attacking Garbodor, you can again make use of Smeargle. You only have to play 1 or 2 Psychic Energy, and as soon as you get 1 Psychic Energy into your discard pile, you can put whatever energy you like, as long as it's a basic, onto Garbodor, and then use Smeargle's ability to swap it out, and life is good. And the theory with this pairing is exceedingly simple. You have the early game where Registeel is just going easy KO, easy KO, easy KO, while building up other Registeel on the bench to hit for 90, maybe heal 30 with Regice, and then when your opponent is using all of their items, because the thing is here, Registeel forces your opponent to set up quickly. So that means they're going to be using a bunch of items. If they use a bunch of items, you punish them with Garbodor. If they don't use a bunch of items, they're probably not setting up that quickly and Registeel goes nuts. Yay! And there's nothing to stop you playing the Ability Lock Garbodor for some matchups and just leaving it in the deck when you really want to take advantage of something like Smeargle or Regice. Want another partner? Now these two are going to seem pretty obvious, but I want to mention them quickly. How about Metagross? Metagross is generally a slower deck that takes a few turns to set up. How about using Registeel to steal, boom, some prizes in the early game while you're setting up your Metagross? I've played a lot of Metagross on my stream, twitch.tv/PTCGRadio, and I find sometimes that by the time I've got Metagross set up, I haven't actually managed to accelerate my board position very much in terms of energy. Well, that's where Registeel comes in. Plus, Metagross really relies on the ability to get the energy on Metagross, and if you don't have your abilities, sometimes you're a little bit vulnerable because you can't attack. So what you can do here is build up a couple on the bench using Registeel, and then if you're not ability locked, you use your ability, and if you are ability locked, then you use Registeel, or you use a Metagross that have been built up using Registeel. The big issue with this is that Alolan Vulpix is so good for searching out your Pokemon and helping Metagross set up that maybe you want to play Alolan Vulpix rather than Registeel, although you're already playing the Metal Energy that you need here. And along that similar line, how about Mega Scizor? Mega Scizor will smash decks like Gardevoir and Alolan Ninetales, but this just seems a pretty good starter, and unlike in Metagross, you're unlikely to need an Alolan Vulpix searching out all your Pokemon in the early game, so you can afford here to just sit and chill with your Registeel taking some early prizes. Speaking of early prizes, one deck that loves doing that is Golisopod Garbodor. You're looking for that early first impression to take the first KO. Problem is, if you go second, you don't have a great turn one attack. Maybe you can flying flip with Tapu Koko. Generally, Golisopod Garbodor going second doesn't have a great attack. How about using Registeel? You're playing Rainbow Energy anyway, so you can use this to maybe sneak an early KO on an Alolan Vulpix, or an early KO on something like a Ralts. Really start turning that Gardevoir matchup in your favour from the beginning of the game. I'm not saying that this is an instant addition to Golisopod Garbodor decks, but I am saying it's a useful tech. And the great thing about Golisopod Garbodor, you're already playing Bridget to search out your basics. You're already playing Tapu Koko that can free retreat into Registeel turn 1, and you're already playing 3 or 4 of the Wimp Out Wimpod that has free retreat on your first turn, meaning that you're actually going to be quite likely to have a free retreater in the active, so as long as you can grab a Bridget and you've got a Rainbow Energy, in comes Registeel. Now the last idea I'm going to give you here comes straight from Joe Bernard of Omnipoke, and I like the idea of using Silvally here. And the theory here is again quite simple, you can see how it works. Registeel, you attack, do 30 and attach any basic energy to your bench. Silvally, you attack, do 120 and attach any basic energy to your bench. It basically means that every time you attack, it's going to be Registeel or Silvally. So every time you attack, you are going to be accelerating energy to your bench. Not to mention the fact that Silvally's ability gives free retreat to all of your basics, like Registeel, like Regice, like Tapu Lele that you're likely to be playing. And of course, don't forget the memory cards, which means you will be hitting both psychic and fighting weakness, because the memory cards change the typing of Silvally, and they're the two we're getting in Crimson Invasion. And not to mention that the GX attack is the same as the Lycanroc Midnight form, which will basically guarantee you an easy KO at some point during the game. And the one thing that Registeel is really lacking is that big one-hit KO in the mid to late game. Well, in comes Silvally. Silvally has got your back. There's a lot of synergy with this, and the more I think about it, the more I like it. In London at the Intercontinental Championships, International Championships as they're actually called, I'm going to be testing a whole bunch of Registeel in advance. I will be at that tournament, and if there is any way I can make it work, I will be playing a Registeel variant. But if you think you've got one that I haven't thought of, chuck it down in the comments. Otherwise, tell me which of the ones I've raised today you think is the best option. Go nuts! Be nice. Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. That's where the live action happens. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus pods, and there's going to be 2 going up in the very near future, get yourself over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.